Welcome to The Profile. My name's Gary Dunn and I'm your host. Every week we have one of Perth's more colourful musicians on the show. We interview them and find out a little bit about them. And tonight we've got Mr. Brendan O'Brien.
Hi.
How are you, mate?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
Yep. Start with where were you born?
Mount Lawley.
Mount Lawley.
Just over there on the river.
I think it's that way.
Okay. It used to be St Anne's Hospital, but now it's St John of God's on the river at Mount Lawley, down the river, overlooking. You can see the racetrack over there. But it was a bit crowded. I was a twin, still am, so my sister was in there too, but we got it done.
Who came out first?
Me, by 5 minutes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So what instruments do you play?
So I'm old enough now. I've had careers on about 4 instruments. I started playing brass at school at Aquinas, and which I carried forward into the Fingerprints.
Yep.
And then I got obsessed with bottom end, and bass was probably like my real true love as a child.
Yep.
And then I went through a phase of obsessed. I use the word obsessed a lot because I'm obsessed with music. Acoustic guitar.
Yep.
Just got completely absorbed in making music, acoustic music, and what you could do with acoustic guitar.
Yep.
And I had a whole career with that, which took me to America and Europe.
Yep.
And keyboards as well. And yeah, just
everything.
Just because I'm really into stuff.
Everything.
But the first instrument I ever got my hands on was that they gave us a recorder in grade 6. Did they do that to you?
Yes.
So at Aquinas, the school teacher gave us, we got a recorder and a book, and that was the course for the year.
Yeah.
So I just, anything to do with music, I just swallowed it. So I went home and that worked out that the dots corresponded with the notes you played.
Yep.
The next week we went back, I'd completed the book. So it was just not through talent, just obsession.
Yeah.
That would be my
So
thing.
what was the moment in your life as a young child you went, this is what I'm going to do?
I mean, it's a really good question because it could be something that's not such a big road to Damascus thing. Let me put it like this. I can tell you the first time I heard a number of certain songs. First time I heard Homeward Bound by Simon and Garfunkel.
Yep.
1966, Rottnest Tea Rooms Jukebox. And I was so transfixed by music that it's vivid. Help by the Beatles. 1966, Rottnest Island Jukebox.
Yeah.
And what's jukebox? Because they had the bottom end.
Yep.
Another moment that I can vividly remember is the first time I listened to music through headphones.
Yep.
A friend of my sister's had a whole lot of singles, and we were at her place, and she had these things, headphones. And it was like, listen to that, I put them on.
You're in your own little world.
Yeah, and it came on, and it was a song, Dizzy, by Tommy Rowe.
Yep.
Dizzy. The effect of it on me, of the enclosure and the bass in particular, was just so transfixing that it's almost like, I think I better keep this to myself.
And the harder you squeeze the headphones on your head, the more bass
You got. So I became addicted to bass.
Yes.
And I knew where the bass was. It was at the Rockingham, the Rockingham trampolines? Anyone ever go there?
Yes.
The jukebox there. Rottnest Island jukebox.
Yeah.
My dad's car.
It was 20 cents for, I think you got 3 songs, didn't you? Or something like that.
And there's another moment where I heard Murray Head's version of Jesus Christ Superstar, Rottnest Trampolines. So it just naturally, these things really meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And the effect was just like, the first time I listened to Side 2 Abbey Road. Can anyone relate to that?
Oh, absolutely. Or
Aaron Woolley over there.
Yes.
In headphones at home.
Yep.
And, Side 2, it goes on and it builds up. And in the end, the love you.
Yeah.
I like it. All those moments, that's when I became a musician.
Magical.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm still that same person in a way.
Great. Fantastic. You've never grown up out of that. So.
I'm a producer really across my career, a music producer.
Yep.
And to me, a producer is someone who can connect with that boy who heard Dizzy, the boy who listened. That's a producer's just a huge music fan.
Yes.
Maybe with a couple of skills.
My producer's like that.
You're so lucky.
Yes, I'm
to
very
have a
lucky.
passionate
Yeah. The trouble is my producer's also my wardrobe lady, the canteen manager, and we're still waiting on the pizza for tonight.
As long as the passion's in there.
Are you feeling homely here tonight?
I am. You know, I'm sensing a lot of passion here.
Everyone looking after you, getting all those grapes. You had your massage in the massage room.
Look, I don't want to tell everyone what it's like. It's so luxurious they'll get jealous.
Okay,
yeah.
What was the first concert you went to?
First big international concert that I went to was the Hollies at Perth Concert Hall.
Yes.
It was $1.60.
Wow.
And that was the first. But before, I would get myself as soon as I could to any gig I could. And I grew up in Armidale, Kelmscott.
Yep.
So that involved catching the bus to various places. So again, like the songs I heard for the first time, the gigs that I would get myself to, I remember midweek catching a bus from Kelmscott to Cottesloe to go to a place called the Sundowner.
Would have been at least 2 buses.
Yeah, you had to change bus. It was
absolutely.
a 219.
Yes.
Anyone from Armidale here? The mighty 219.
My producer's from Armidale. Dave Crosby, I interviewed him a while ago.
I saw it. We talk about Dave. We played in bands. So I would catch a bus into Perth, then out to the Sundowner, old people's home now.
Yes.
Appropriately. To see Chalice.
Yes.
It was midweek, there weren't many people there, but
George
Chalice
Heathcote.
yeah. And I heard someone talk about Chalice, Brendan Fosdyke.
Yeah, George Heathcote, and I can't remember
Les
the other
Brazil.
members. Yeah, Les Brazil.
Who sang a
he
voice
played
like...
bass. He played bass in that band.
Chalice,
yeah.
I would catch a bus to Supreme Court Gardens to see Peter Walker play in Bakery.
Oh,
Bakery were like the Led Zeppelin of Perth.
Yeah.
And we just looked at Peter Walker's fingers, and that's all we cared about.
Yeah.
I catch a bus change in Perth. Go to Leederville Oval to see Billy Thorpe in the most people think I know.
Yes.
So it's all that and
yes.
and everything having just a huge profound effect on me.
Yeah, well, I can feel the passion sitting here. It's rubbing off on me already. And I remember the first time I went to see you play. I walked into the Charles to a packed house and saw this long, big dude with skinny black tie, and you all looked like the Beatles, and it was like, wow, this is great.
I never thought it would be a dream, but to have, when I was looking at those guys that I'm talking about, that I would be in that position.
Yes.
And all of us who went on to become performers must have had that thought, wow, I never dreamed I'd be up here.
Yeah, yeah.
I always thought being on stage was really special. Like, to me, there were two types of people in the world. The people that were on stage and the people that were in the audience.
Yes.
And it wasn't really the done thing. I was at a conservative school at Aquinas and having a conservative upbringing. And I was supposed to be a doctor.
Yes.
It didn't work out. But I just naturally feel that being a performer is special, and that's just the way I'm built. And I know a lot of people that you speak to on this show would feel the same.
Well, I remember when I married my wife, who I'm still married to, obviously, her father got up and the first thing he said was, is there a doctor in the house for my other daughter? Don't like musicians, I don't think. So
it was tough. In those days, music wasn't seen as a way that you made a living.
Yes.
And that's why it becomes interesting when we'll talk later about the industry that we all created.
Yes. In
the late 70s into the 80s, where the Perth music industry became huge, and it was a way to make a living.
Absolutely.
And for what it's worth, I've made a living like that my whole life.
Yeah.
And so
if I ask you what other jobs you've done throughout your life, which is one of my questions, you're just going to not answer?
Pretty much. There's been a couple of moments when I was in the Paul Keating Big Band, they call it, in Sydney.
Crossing that one out.
Have you heard of the Paul Keating Big Band?
Yes.
Well, all the brass players in Sydney, they say, yeah, I was in the Paul Keating Big Band for a while. That means you're on the dole.
Yeah, that's right.
But apart from a couple of little spells like that, I've always made a living out of it. And it's probably just my stubborn determination just to prove that being a musician was viable.
Okay. So let's go back to I suppose the start of the big bands in Perth, which we were just talking about, Fingerprints. How did that form? And Bill Bear, Boyd Wilson.
Oh yeah,
Yak.
Fingerprints. So the Fingerprints was like a lot of things that become successful. You form them without just as incidental. my good friend Boyd Wilson and I, we were already writers, and we'd just done a big jingle campaign for Channel 7.
Yep.
And the way that started is that we were in the band, and the drummer in the band was a rep at 6IX, a sales rep. And he said, "Can you guys do jingles?" So we went into 6IX, and they were producing ads for dumb stuff. And it was like, the first one we did was like a river cruise, the Champagne Party Boat. It's like, "Can you do a jingle for that?" And we're like, "Yeah, okay. Champagne Party Boat." And that's 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then, "What about Subaru?" "Okay, sun, sand, surf, you and your Subaru." And we started tuning these out. And just accidentally we got good at it. And then they said to us, because Channel 7 owns 6IX,
Yep.
and they said to us, "Channel 7 need a station ID for 1978. Do you want to try and write one?"
Yep.
And we wrote this, and the brief was switch on, turn on, tune into 7, the colour machine, because colour was new then. And we wrote this tune and did a demo and gave it to them and forgot about it. And we heard back, it's like Channel 7 want to use it. We're like, "Okay, great, we'll record it, and that'll be great." But it's like, "Not for Perth, national."
Okay.
It's like,
Big break.
it was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah, like for the year. That was a station ID. And we were like, "Oh, okay." So we were all, this is way before Fingerprints. I'll get to Fingerprints and how that
Thank
sort of
you.
came out of it. So we recorded the Channel 7 campaign at Will Upson's studio in North Fremantle.
Yep.
Does anyone
Yes.
remember that?
Yes, absolutely.
Dave Upson, engineering.
Yep.
And Brendan Fosdyke was talking about Brendan Darby,
Yep.
the trumpet player. He was in on the session.
We've got to get Brendan on the show as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I knew him from Saab.
Yep.
I played trombone probably with him,
Wow.
would be the brass. But the thing that made it work is that we hired the singers, the female singer of the 60s and 70s. And in Perth, that was a lady called Helen Matthews.
Yes.
And I don't know if anyone's ever mentioned her, but if they haven't,
Not up to date.
they
No.
should.
Yes.
So she was the singer in JT and the Jasmine. And she sang it. And you can make any old crap and put Helen on it, and it sounds $1 million.
Yeah.
And that ran for 12 months solid, nationwide, Channel 7. And that was just sort of put us on the map.
Yes.
And so we're like, "Well, what else do you want to do?" And, you know, we want to go out to gigs and, you know, have fun.
Had fun, yeah.
And Boyd's like, "Oh, let's make it like a 60s band." And I'm remembering, Help, Rottnest Tea Rooms, you know. You know, Simon. I'm like, "Let's do that." And we just smashed that out really quickly. And then the Fingerprints overtook us. It wasn't really what we were,
Yeah.
but events overtook us.
Yes.
We were really writers, and we just made this band for a laugh.
And it worked.
And that's what happens when you're not too serious about stuff. It tends to be good.
Timing's got a lot to do with it, I'm sure. As
Yeah,
well.
so we put an ad in the Sunday Times, as you do. I said,
Yes.
Mark Donahue.
Everyone did it.
That musical instruments in the Sunday Times, 2 columns.
Yeah.
God, the history that's gone through there.
There was pages.
Oh, was
there
it? Okay.
Pages, not columns.
But you might be selling this guitar.
Yes.
Or you might be hiring a drummer.
Wanted vocalist who can play bass or...
And that's what we did. And who turned up was Bill Bear,
Yep.
fresh in from New Zealand.
Yep.
He was on a tour selling paintings. Guys used to walk around.
He was the
selling
best looking guy in the Fingerprints, wasn't he, Bill?
Is that your sense of irony?
No, that was my observation. Sorry, no
That's probably
offence to
a
you.
personal thing for you.
Yes.
I don't know.
Maybe I shouldn't talk about that.
He can sing up a storm. Though.
Yes,
So-
absolutely.
And and Ray Vine and a guy called Paul Richmond, and
Yep.
we were just. Someone's talking over there.
Someone's talking in the wings.
Yeah, that's right.
So rude, isn't it?
And it was just a dumb thing.
Yes.
And we learnt a song in the length of the song. So if we did Summer in the City, the
Yeah.
song's 4 minutes long or 2 minutes 30. We learned it in 2 minutes 30.
The Kinks, I remember you doing,
Yeah, I really got you.
yeah.
Wow, Bill could smash that.
You did the other one as well. What was it called? Can't remember. But
All Day and All the Night, maybe, or something like that. Anyway, yeah, so do you want to talk about Fingerprints?
No, you can talk about whatever you want. I just started at the Fingerprints. If you want to move on to the next one, that's...
Well, the Fingerprints was what really put us on the map, and it changed the industry a lot because we couldn't believe what was happening. So Perth had just come out a very dark era, which was disco.
That's correct.
Did you ever do a gig in the disco era where the disco is playing, everyone's dancing, and the band comes on?
Everyone goes off the dance floor, yes.
Because their music's so compressed and loud, and then you came on and sounded really weak.
That's what I loved about coming to the Charles that first time and seeing you, was all these people just going nuts.
Yeah.
Full house. I thought, wow, this is it. It's happening. It's not disco. It's rock and roll. It's live music.
So part of the reason that the Fingerprints worked was because disco had run its course. And we were angry, to be honest. By the end of disco, we were angry. I played in a band, Midnight Flight, with Boyd, John Bennett's from Eurogliders, Celia Cooper. And we did all those disco gigs at the Raffles and the Balga, where the disco was king. And you just couldn't compete with it. So by the time that died a death, Fingerprints had formed, and there was angry music coming from the UK, like The Jam, Sex Pistols, and they were Elvis Costello. It was all angry. That was how we felt. And I think that's why we put on the slim ties and smashed it out. We played every song at double the speed. Because we were so pissed off at disco. And we, you know what I mean?
I love it. No,
that was the attitude.
I love the reason, the attitude, everything.
And we would get up on stage and go, death to disco, and the audience would just go,
bang.
Everyone was sick of it. And it was us, but it could have been someone else stepping into that vacuum. But it would just happen to be us.
Life is about timing.
And just luck, you know, we didn't plan it. And we weren't even that sort of musicians, but it overtook us. So the thing about the Fingerprints is that every gig we started with 5 people. And that's, I think, why we're a bit different, because after that phenomenon was rolling. The boys were doing the same, mostly on the other side of town. We were at Mosman Park. Murray McHenry gave us a go at Steve's on Thursday. It was 5 people. Week 2, 50. Week 3, 150. And week 4, they closed the doors at the Mosman. And we didn't even understand why. We weren't even that good musically. But I think what it was is that we were authentic. Kids want to go out and have fun.
It was entertainment.
That's all we were doing.
Having fun.
And so we were just like them. We weren't trying to be anything big musically or anything, but we just had a way of putting it across that they felt like they were at our party and that we were partying together. That's what I think it was. And
so where did you move to after the Fingerprints finished?
Fingerprints, well, as I said, sort of what happened with the Fingerprints, in my opinion, it got so big that it became an industry. So after about by a year and a half, we were playing to 5,000 people a week. It was Thursday Raffles, Friday Hurdy's, Saturday Morley Park, Sunday at the Charles. 5,000 people there. And so that became an industry, and that will kill you because so many people depend on you. We had 2 trucks, 2 PAs, all the road crew who were full-time, and their wives and girlfriends and kids or whatever. The management, the people that worked in the office, the door staff, and you, if you rented a house that was a bit too expensive or bought a car that maybe you shouldn't have. Not that we were short of money, but, and to me, once it gets to that stage, you couldn't just necessarily be yourself.
Well, Pinky Hayes was your manager, and he brought in the door charge, didn't he, really? And
he really did a huge service. And it wasn't just him. Him and Neil Scott agreed. Once bands got to a certain size, it changed the industry, because before then, where you played depended on your agent. The venue took the door, if there was one,
Yep.
and the agent determined where you went. But once the bands like the Fingerprints, Boys, Dice got to a certain size, you didn't have an agent.
Yep.
The venues just rang the phone off the
right.
hook trying to get you to play there.
Yep.
And Peter was really good. He introduced a door charge at the Mosman, and it was $1.50. And we was like, are you kidding me? That means we have that many people, so that'll be 500, 700. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we were really nervous about it because it was so sort of new. You had door charges for touring bands, but for a band that lived in Perth and played every week,
Yes.
it was new. And Peter did that.
Then it became $2. Then it became $3.
I remember when he said, we're
And a
moving to Morley
retainer.
Park. Here's what we're doing. We're going to the Morley Park, huge room, and it's going from $2 to $3.
Yeah.
And we really freaked.
Yes.
But every time we did that, it not only didn't it drop off, it grew.
Yes.
When he took us from the Mosman to the Windsor, because he was always growing it. The first time I went to the Windsor to play that gig, it was about 45 minutes before the gig, and the car park everyone was outside. And I was really alarmed because the door staff, something's gone wrong, the door staff haven't arrived. And I sort of fought my way to the door and I went in.
It was packed inside. There were
closed the
people that
door
couldn't get
45
in.
minutes.
Yes.
And now there's 700 people in there and 250 outside.
At $3 a head.
And there was $2 then. Then he took that to the Morley Park. So what we did is we started with no one, and I'm not saying it's us who were special. We were just in the right place at the right time. And then he was managing the frames.
Yeah.
And Peter and those other managers who thought like him, like Neil Scott and that, they set up that system, and the musicians had much more power.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great time, wasn't it? Never to be repeated, probably.
It got a lot bigger after that.
Didn't it? Yeah.
Once V Capri and Fonzarelli's and that, it just got ridiculous.
It was great.
So we're moving on.
Yeah, Cat's Crafty, was that the next thing for you?
Yeah, Fingerprints, we went to live in Sydney.
Yep.
We just expired within ourselves here. We're doing covers.
Yep.
And then went to Sydney, came back and went back to Jingles. And that's when I started working with Tony Durant.
Yep.
So that was great.
Tony Durant came from another country, didn't he?
Yeah, so Tony came from England.
Yep.
Dave Warner brought Tony over to produce his records, and Tony produced Free Kicks, Suburban Boy, all that.
Yep.
It was very successful.
Yep.
And I was lucky enough to end up working with Tony. And so...
Was the girl you married in Cat's Crafty?
The girl I married, but that's not her claim to fame.
Okay, no worries.
The girl I ended up marrying was in one of my favourite bands.
Yep.
My favourite band at the time that I liked to go and see was Silent Type at the Albion on like a Monday or Tuesday night. The Riffs, Barry Lytton, so on. And they had the guitarist Glenn White. Do you remember him?
Yes, I remember Glenn very well.
Beautiful, sparse playing style.
Yeah. It was very policey.
So much with so little.
Yeah.
And because Barry was so on,
yes,
it was just a joy. I loved him. And riffs were on rotation in the Fingerprints touring vehicles. The other band was Icebergs to Arabia.
Yeah.
Icebergs to Arabia had Lisa Hill as a lead singer, Leslie Hill on keyboards, Anthony Bridge on drums, Jim Bowman on bass, and the other guy was Hitch, and I can't remember his first name.
That's okay.
Greg.
Yeah. Well, thank you over there.
Again, a transfixing moment. Went to see Icebergs Arabia at the CB Hotel. So little Lisa Hill comes out and she starts singing this song. If this is grown up, I want to regress. If this is grown up, I want to regress.
Yep.
If this is grown up, I want to confess. I'm not too impressed and I want to regress. And that had an edge on it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I've got to marry this girl.
No, well, I wasn't thinking that, but I was just a fan.
Yes.
And, you know, I went away and, you know, forgot about it, but I didn't forget about it because the talent just in that was just like, oh boy. So cut a long story short, it was through Tony Durant and Johnny Leopard a couple of years later I was working with Tony with doing jingles.
Yep.
And Tony and Johnny said, "Oh, we want to form a band with Lisa Hill.
Yep.
And here's her songs." And I actually didn't know who'd written that song.
Yep.
And there's a cassette, and it's like, if this is growing up, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing this.
Loving it.
Great. And so then I got to work with Lisa Hill, who to me is one of the best songwriters I've ever seen, period, much less out of Perth. Yeah.
And you couple of kids?
You're jumping ahead too much.
Mate, I just wanted to ask the question.
It's not the main point.
I know.
It did turn out like that.
Great.
But years later,
Okay, we'll get back.
That was Cat's Crafty.
Yep. So we'll get back to that later. Then there was Deadly Nightshades.
Yeah, so Cat's Crafty took us to Sydney.
Yep.
Tony and I produced Lisa's songs into demos and shopped it around Sydney.
Yep.
And long story short, again, Polygram offered us $45,000 to go and move to Sydney. And that's basically, that was just publishing.
Yeah.
So that's basically Lisa's songs.
Yeah, great.
And we're like, you know what, you have to do this.
Yes.
And that was the start of living in Sydney, and we were there for the best part of 2 decades.
Yeah.
And again, Cat's Crafty, we had management that didn't really suit us, and it didn't, even though we had some success, it didn't really take for the usual reasons.
Yeah.
And Deadly Nightshades, who you mentioned, was formed out of the ashes of Cat's Crafty.
Cool. Now, you went to Europe and America.
I must be going too long because you're really pulling me. Yeah, so
He's just going.
I know he's over there. I'm so excited.
I got to work with him every week, Brendan.
And he doesn't want to edit this stuff. He wants me to. Yeah, sorry, I'll skip it along.
Well, let's go with the jingles, okay?
Yeah.
And
the great thing about doing jingles is I saw Brendan Fosdyke sit here.
Yeah.
When I became a jingle producer, we needed singers to sing them. So I got to ring up all the people that I loved when I was a kid.
Yes.
So Brendan was in Saab, and it's like, he came and sang the Sunday Times jingle.
Right.
Or Paul Reynolds from, you know Paul Reynolds?
Yeah, we interviewed him, Paul, a little while ago. His episode should come up soon.
So we love his husky voice.
Yes.
He sung a bunch of jingles for us. Ray Van Ross.
So you're mentioning all the people we've interviewed. This is great.
So they've got to watch
Connects.
it.
Yes.
Ray
absolutely.
Van Ross from
Absolutely.
Breakaway, but other bands, but he's a supreme anthem singer.
Yes.
And lovely to work with him.
Yes.
Dennis Broad was sitting here.
Yes.
He sang jingles for us.
Oh, he sang like a bird, didn't he?
He was great
Yes.
and lovely to work with.
Yes.
So I was a kid in a candy shop working with people who I just thought were great.
Yes.
And paying them well.
Yes.
And making great recordings in the studio. So that's a great thing about jingles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And is it true you travelled 25,000 kilometres for a single gig? Could you tell us how that came about and a bit about that story?
Yeah, so I was playing with Deadly Nightshades in Sydney.
Yep.
Deadly Nightshades was a 3-piece band. Me, Lisa, and Bill Bear, who had been in the Fingerprints.
Yes.
And it was 2 acoustic guitars and Lisa on percussion. They used to call us the Peter, Paul and Mary of goth. And we had a record deal with Hot Records,
yes.
Ed Cooper's label.
Yep.
And we had a big following in Sydney. And maybe you'll play a clip at the end showing Deadly Nightshades on TV. But
yes.
So I was known as an acoustic player by then, and my mate played drums with Russell Crowe. They were going on the Footy Show to play Russell's latest single, or their latest single. It had a 12-string part. So they're like, Brendan, can you come and play this part on the Footy Show, the Rugby League Footy Show?
Yes.
So I did that at the Enmore Theatre, and it was like, oh, that's great. So Russell's like, hey, we're doing a tour, an East Coast tour. You might as well come along and do that with us.
Yes.
I was like, okay. Well, actually, we were having our first child, and I was like, what is it? It's like, just 2 weeks, we're going up to Byron Bay, Ballina, Coffs Harbour, just up and just a little tour.
Yep.
And the Viper Room. And I was like, sorry, is there a Viper Room in Byron Bay? and Russell's like, no, the Viper Room.
In LA.
In LA. Yeah, so the tour is like Coffs Harbour, Ballina, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney, Los Angeles, Sydney. That's what it's like in Russell's World.
Wow.
So you just couldn't say no.
Yeah.
So he'd just done LA Confidential.
Did you make it back for the birth of your first child?
Yeah, it was a couple of months after.
Perfect.
Yeah, I didn't cut it that fine.
Well, I'm not going too far by saying that, am I?
But so, yeah, there we were at the Viper Room. So 12,000 kilometres, 14-hour flight, play the 45 minutes at the Viper Room. And there...
Can you name drop, please?
You have to
Come
name
on,
drop. You can't.
Not.
There's Kevin Spacey, Kim Basinger,
Yeah.
Danny DeVito. I don't know whether there was people there, but I don't know who they were. But apart from all the stars, maybe it was just for stars. So paid the set, woof, back to the airport, 12,000 kilometres back, 25,000 K just for one gig.
Wow. I hope you got paid well for it.
Yeah, I did.
Excellent.
Yeah, they weren't short of money. Those guys,
of course not. So, just moving sideways a bit.
Yep.
You told me you've never done anything but play music.
Yep.
So, who were you listening to on the way here in your car? Was any music at all?
Yeah. Just lately, I'm revisiting stuff from back in the day. So, if you're after what new music I'm into, unless my daughter plays it, not really.
I just want to know what you were listening to on the way here in the car.
This is a bit geeky, but what I listen to now is on YouTube you get isolated tracks.
Yep.
So I'm listening to John Bonham isolated. Just his drum part on something. And then you can listen to John Bonham and John Paul Jones, just them.
Yep.
I can listen to that whole length and completely geek out on that.
Great drummer.
Yeah, so, and more lately I'm doing the same with Dwayne Allman.
Yep.
Don't know why. Just probably getting jerked around on YouTube. You know how you watch something and then have down the side
recommended views for you.
And they know you better than you know.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone knows you better than you, Facebook and all
so
that
I'm
stuff.
sucked into that world at the moment. Yeah.
I had Paul Ewing on the show the other week and I asked him who you're listening to on the way here in the car, and he said, well, Jim Rossiter, because he gave him a lift here. You know, I thought that was really funny.
He sang for us.
Yes.
Jim's got a beautiful voice.
Absolutely.
He sang jingles for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, okay, so what's your favourite band of all time? Is that a hard question?
It's just the same answer.
Yeah.
Beatles. It has to be. Yeah. It has to be a one-word answer. Yeah.
So if you knew you were going to be stuck on a desert island, obviously there's a little bit of technology there because you can take an album and listen to it, but what album would that be? What's your favourite? What would you listen to in that week or two?
You think about it with a desert island, it's like you have to take something that will endure. You're going to die soon. So it's, you know.
Which album would you like to listen to before you die?
Oh, okay. Well, the last thing I hear. It's actually not the Beatles because, anyway, to cut to the chase, producer, it would be Pet Sounds.
Yep.
Just because Brian Wilson managed to put it all into one record.
Yes.
I don't think the Beatles actually, as much as I love Abbey Road and all those records, maybe Rubber Soul got close, but Pet Sounds just did something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so special and spiritual. So yeah, I'm listening to Pet Sounds.
What was your favourite TV show growing up?
Same answer again as Fozzie and Dennis, those guys who grew up with I Dream of Jeannie, Hogan's Heroes, Munsters, Addams Family, Gilligan's Island, all that, except, I'll jump forward, the only thing to compare after that was Ren and Stimpy in the 90s.
Oh, hey Ren, yes Stimpy.
That was a big influence on us. Ren and Stimpy was the only thing to match the golden era. So let's say Ren and Stimpy, I'll definitely say that.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So what does the future hold for you, Brendan?
Yeah, you know what? The best things that have happened to me, like the Fingerprints and Deadly Nightshades, were things that I didn't plan.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I reckon I'll wait and find out what it is.
That's
because it'll probably be the best thing of all.
Yeah. We've got this guitar here, and every week we get a special guest to sign it.
Yep.
Now, would you like to sign a white pen on the sides or the back, or would you like a black pen for the front?
I'm just looking here.
Where do you fit,
so Rick Whittles, he's like,
he's taking all the space. He's taking everything.
Okay, Rick, you know. Can you tell me who they are? Ray Van
Ross.
You know, Ray.
Next to Ray.
I had so many great sessions with Ray Van Ross. I'm going to put my name next to him. What a great singer.
Good on you.
I'm really looking forward to seeing his.
While you're doing that, I will ask our viewers to please subscribe to our channel, and if you would please like the video, again comment on our videos. It would be much appreciated. Thanks for signing that. We're going to auction this off on Telethon.
Great.
Hopefully we can get a lot of money for the cause. Yeah. And I mean, there's some great names on there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable names, really.
Yeah, so I might start saving up, give myself a chance.
Yeah. You've probably got enough money now anyway.
I've got enough equipment. Yeah, that's for sure.
So, any unfulfilled ambitions? You don't have to answer it. You might not have any.
No, not really. As I said, I like the accidental stuff.
Yeah.
The random stuff.
Seems to have worked for you.
Yeah, and I learned the hard way that if you try to control things too much, you kill them.
Otherwise, you would have been a doctor.
I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
You're like Parky. You've got insight.
You've given me the insight, you know.
Well, I've been really excited. That's why I talk too much.
Yes. I love your excitement, your passion. It's great. I'm loving it.
Yeah, because all of us were there. We felt the same about the music.
Absolutely.
And we soaked it up when we were in the industry. And I love seeing these interviews and listen to guys like that talk.
Yeah, good. Do you collect anything?
Yeah.
What?
Vintage EQs and compressors.
Wow. Bass players.
Well, I'm a producer, so I'm obsessed with Quad 8.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe the engineers will know about Quad 8. Quad 8, it's like Neve.
Yep.
But Quad 8 is more the Beach Boys sound.
It's Quad 8 analog?
Yeah, oh yeah. So the EQs I like are from the 70s.
Yes.
To me, audio peaked in the 70s. Once digital reverb came in, it started to go downhill. Yeah. So to me, the best sounding records are the late 70s, like Police, 10cc.
Yes.
They're noisy, but that glue of analog and tape, you know, and vinyl, that magic combination. Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
Do you still play vinyl? You got plenty of vinyl?
Don't play vinyl, but I've got so much analog and valve gear that we make it sound like that now.
I noticed you've got a lot of tapes you came in with, or someone handed you tonight, and Mark at ProCopy was kind enough to digitise them all for you, so you can throw those tapes
our
in.
tapes from back in the day are like this, like that. If only someone had a business, there you could digitise that stuff. But it's, you know, but I don't know.
ProCopy. You can give them a plug if you like.
What a great idea.
Give them a plug, go on.
Yeah.
Look into Draken's camera.
Hey, Mark digitised some of the stuff from back in the day. So we're going back to get the VHSs and we're going to drive it down, going to hire a truck and bring it all down to ProCopy. Yeah.
He charges like a wounded bull, but sometimes.
Yeah, I'll be looking for industry discount.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure he'll look after you.
Yeah.
So maybe a strange question, but what would you put on your gravestone?
Actually, my sister took care of that. My twin sister, who was born at St. Anne's with me.
Yeah.
When Lisa and I got married in 1997, she got up and made her speech. And she said, he loves his wife, he loves his family, and he loves his music.
Wow.
If you just put all that in the past tense, I reckon we got it done.
So can we talk about how many children you have and what ages they are now? Or is that the right time, or because I'm just about to finish? So.
Yeah, no worries. So we have a daughter, Keely, who's 18, and she's become a singer.
Wow.
You wouldn't believe it. So she's at Whopper, in her first year at Whopper, doing Bachelor of Contemporary Singing.
Yep.
And our 15-year-old son, Tully, who's at high school in year 10 still.
Wow. I want to get, speaking about Whopper, I want to get Vinny on the show sometime so we can talk about Whopper, because we haven't talked about it yet, because it's such a huge inspiration for the up-and-coming musicians.
Yeah, and that's something that I do now that I really enjoy doing. I never was a teacher, but Kim Siragusa down at TAFE, he hunted me down about 3-4 years ago and said, can I send the advanced students to your studio? And I love that. They are so switched on.
Yeah.
And they are so into the classics and the analog. So Kim's doing a great job at TAFE, and the guys at Whopper are doing a great job.
Yeah, we get Kim to fill in occasionally in the bands we play in now, and he's just mad. He's a great keyboard player.
He is,
Real passion.
and also at TAFE, I got to bump into all the guys from back in the day, like the Warbow brothers.
Yes.
and that's been great too.
Yeah, it's great for them to pass on their knowledge, and
It's great. It's funny to think, like, I left uni to become a muso, and it was like, oh, now there's unis for musos.
Yes.
It's like,
Not
okay.
unos. No.
It's funny, my son was talking the other day about being a doctor. I'm like, oh my goodness.
No. Maybe he'll just fall into that. And,
I don't know.
Be the opposite for him.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll roll with it.
So can you tell us something, last question, unless you want to talk about anything else? Is there anything else you'd like?
Yeah, let's do all that again, and I'll talk about all new stuff.
Okay.
No, we wrap it up,
Welcome to The Profile. My name is Gary. So tell us something that we don't know about you, something that nobody knows about you.
I'm a basketball coach.
A basketball coach?
Yeah. I coach elite basketball.
Okay.
I'm a coach at Perry Lakes Hawks, and I coach work in with state teams.
How much?
Under 14.
Does that take a lot of your time?
It sure does.
Yes.
It really takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of your kids basketball players or?
Yes, they're both very good basketballers. It was my kids that got me into it.
Yep.
And so that's how they came about. So the people that know me from basketball, they know that, but the musical people, maybe they don't know. So yeah, I'm a basketball.
The basketball people know about your music as well?
They didn't know about it. Lisa and I were very happy with our low profile, because we live at the basketball stadium because of the kids and everything.
Yep.
Then they put that bloody show on, Pub Legends.
And that did you in.
We haven't heard the end of it. And they're
I
like,
love it.
seal on the
You're
beam.
that guy. And
I
you're
was
that
at
girl.
seal on the
Yeah.
beam, and you were that. They don't recognise me, but Lisa's so recognisable that I hate it. At airports with Lisa,
Yeah.
even now, I'll guarantee you'll get stopped.
Yeah.
See on the beam. Yeah. Fingerprints before that. Yeah. We paid for damn it.
Brendan, so nice to have you in.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I saw Brendan Fosdyke, Dave Crosby, who I played with at high school, and Dennis Broad, and I just got really excited. They're such great people, and I was really pumped to be here, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No
Look,
worries.
Mr. Brendan O'Brien, fantastic. Thank you for joining us again. We'll see you next week.